Okay, we're recording. So, for me, I think it's important that, like, as individuals, when something is like happening in our country,
Yeah.
that we consider it as like egregious behavior by our government. I think it's almost a responsibility of ours to. I mean, I think the least we can do is talk about it in a way that says we're in opposition to what you're doing to other human beings. And we're talking about um, illegal immigrants being separated, children being separated from their family members and put in, basically detention centers. And these are kids these are toddlers. These are young children being taken away from their families. And I think it's important that we just vocalize that that's not something that we can tolerate as Americans.
Yeah. I think that I'm glad to see the outrage that came forth from a lot of people that it seems at this point has caused Trump to sign an executive order stopping it, essentially. And so I think that is just a great demonstration of our power as people, I don't think that he just had this sudden change of heart.
No, of
where,
course not.
Where he feels bad all of a sudden. Even that's what he was saying. But it really is. I think I want to see the picture where he goes on social media or whatever it is that he does, and he recognizes people really are not happy about this.
I think it's so the audience knows where we're at in the timeline. As we're recording this, Trump just signed the executive order saying he's going to unite the families or prevent them from being separated further. My concern, did he sign that executive order? Yeah, that seems like some kind of win. But knowing Donald Trump's behaviors and past strategies, wouldn't be surprised if that executive order isn't actually carried out. So he signed the order, but I wouldn't be. I'm concerned, or my next thought is this going to be implemented, though? Or are they going to actually stop separating children from their parents?
Yeah, how long is that going to take? That's what I was wondering. It's
I'll have to go back and read the whole thing. I mean, but we're not a show that talks about the news. We're talking about the morality of the action. But I don't know the significant contents of it. I'm interested to see if it actually is carried out. But it is a win, though. It's a win that he at least conceded somewhat, and that's because of the pressure that other politicians were putting on him and the public was putting on him. This seems like, we were talking earlier about this, seems like this is the thing that's really created the most outrage. Of all the things that people are frustrated about that Trump has done, this seems to have created the most outrage out of everything so far, which is interesting because I don't know that I would have guessed that this would be the thing, but I'm glad that children being separated from their parents and put in detention centers, they're being incarcerated. I'm glad that that's tugging on the heartstrings of Americans. That makes me feel better about the people in my country, but I'm still concerned about our government.
I think what you were saying earlier when you're talking about the fact that it surprised you, I think what you're trying to say there is that there are lots of things that he's done that are really bad for us and that are going to lead to potentially lots of deaths or a restriction of rights, and we weren't at all. It doesn't seem like we rabble-rouse too much about those things, and it's just this reminds us of something. This reminds us of several things from the past. Right? I mean, that's what makes this so...
Japanese internment camps.
Japanese internment... I mean, comparing it to Nazi Germany, there's just a million ways that you can dissect what's going on here. And so I think because of that really rings a bell for people. But, when we're talking about... we'll talk about later, but net neutrality or... the fact that we've had a lot of anti-science people appointed to certain positions. And it's just those things are going to do awful things, they're going to result in maybe some of the same things that are happening with him just directly taking children from parents, families being separated. Like, that's what happens when catastrophe happens. But it to me was a demonstration of like, oh, they are, like, even if you want to say like, it's going to go away, whatever, like, he didn't have to respond. He could have just done things regularly, but he didn't. And it's because people spoke up finally.
Yeah, and that it feels good that there was finally a concession, and like there was public outcry, and that there was a result from that outcry, because we don't see that a lot anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But that shows you how much effort you really have to put in, and how the volume, the amount of people that it takes to get something to happen is a lot. It's hard to organize that many people, but it seems like this was able to occur with this immigration issue. And you brought up, historically, Japanese internment camps and Nazi Germany, and I think there are people out there that get frustrated when they're like, well, we're the United States. This is not Nazi Germany. We're not doing what the Germans did. It's like, yeah, that's true. We're not doing what the Germans did. What Nazi Germany did in the 1930s and 40s is on a whole other level, right? But the lesson learned from that is like, you find the point where you have to pump the brakes before you get to a scenario that you suddenly, because it doesn't happen overnight. What happened in Nazi Germany didn't happen overnight. Mm-hmm. And so I'm glad that it seems like there's a part of the American population who's saying that no, this is not American. We did the Japanese internment camp thing in World War II. That was unacceptable. That was un-American. We're not going back to that place. Can't do it. We don't even need to talk about Nazi Germany. We can talk about our own history, right?
Yeah.
Putting people on reservations, putting people in internment camps. That Americans are saying we're not going back to that. And even conservatives are saying, no, we can't do this.
Yeah.
Can't do it. And that pleases me.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's great to see something like that happen and to get such a quick result. We started the day wanting to just talk about the separation of the children from their families, and by the end of the day, we had, it was just a completely different thing because he was signing the executive order. But yeah, I mean, it reminds us of a lot, but I just wonder if that's why we caught it. Like that, the reason that we caught it was because it has some type of emotional underpinnings, when in reality, things like this are happening all the time. Like, just thinking about the position of a lot of Americans right now in terms of like wealth disparity, like those things are still going on, and we can't seem to be able to resolve that, and maybe it's just because we're not concerned enough, maybe, or we're not talking about it enough. I'm not exactly sure what, I guess just as a whole, maybe we are satisfied enough.
I think the next step that I would like to see, and I don't know, these holding facilities. I don't know what term to use. I've said holding facility. I've said detention center. I don't know. It doesn't feel right. I don't know what the term is, but I would like to see next is I'm curious, like who owns these facilities? Is this a private organization, or is this public? Is this a government facility, or is it run by private groups? I want to know who's profiting off of these children being separated from their families. And I want those company names to be put on a big fat banner and put on every Twitter page, and know that, like, they should not be making money off this. This is not American. This is unacceptable.
Do you think it's likely that people are making money off of it?
Yeah.
Huh. That's so weird. It's like, I don't know. I would wait for the information, but we do sell everything.
Like, what if you're a clerk that in processes the kids that come into the facility? Are you a part of that? Are you just working a job? You just following your orders?
Yeah. Well, are they government?
Huh?
Are they government?
Does it matter if they're government or private employee?
In terms of corporations, it does.
Well, I'm talking about the morality, like your responsibility.
Okay. Yeah. So you're just talking about
in this.
Yeah.
If you're the person that, I in process the toddlers, the kids coming into the facility.
Yeah.
Should I be standing up and saying, hey, I can't do this?
Yeah. Yeah,
shouldn't be making money off of this right now.
Yeah.
Making my living.
Yeah, and so, I mean, we basically have a bunch of kids that were separated from the parents, and we don't know how to get them back, it sounds like. Or there's just no tracking, it seems like, that happened. And I've heard people say that this has happened before, like this isn't new, that we've always done this. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know either.
Yeah. So there's still a lot to, I think, dissect in terms of...
I'm glad that I'm aware of it now, though.
Yeah. Yeah, because that seems like something you'd want to know, right?
Yeah.
And then it would change your perception of what happened and the political moves that are occurring.
Oftentimes when it comes to media, they show us things, reveal information to us that we're not aware of, right? And sometimes there's this almost like they're encouraging you to become outraged about whatever idea it is they're promoted.
Mm-hmm.
And so people get mad about something that they wouldn't be really mad about if it wasn't being blared on the news all the time, right? But this particular thing, I think you ought to be outraged.
Yeah.
Because I'm glad that this was brought to my attention. This is worthy of the news cycle. This isn't just some run-of-the-mill story that they're trying to pump out. This is something people do need to be outraged about, I think.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, this was just a perfect demonstration of how communication can be used for us, because I do think it just at the end of it had a lot to do with people speaking up and saying that they had a problem with it, and the government listening. So it showed. I think we might have even talked about. I can't remember if it's a podcast that we put up or not, but talked about like whether or not they were even listening anymore.
Yeah, and I think you got to give the credit to the actual conservative individuals who spoke up about this.
Yeah,
because I think if it were just
it would have taken a certain amount. Yeah,
if it were just the Democratic Party, I don't think we would have seen as much traction.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, it was either Trump sitting in front of it and being like, "Okay, people are pissed." Mm-hmm. Or it was what seems like even more likely is that people around him were telling him, like, this is a no-go, man. Like, you have to do something about this right now, But, that's not to, I think you were trying to take it more like the warm-hearted, because there are certainly, you were talking about the church, right, that like, basically ostracized.
The Jeff's Attorney General Sessions church is frustrated with him.
Yeah.
Because of these policies.
Yeah.
And I was happy to hear that. I was like, this Christian group is saying this is not okay to take a child from their family, regardless of whether they're here illegally or not.
Yeah. So you're gonna have those people too. But I think in terms of the administration, I do mostly just see it as like too many people are pissed about this. We have to do something about it. Rather than kind of like, and it might have been conservatives too, Mm-hmm. But they were I also saw that they were interviewing some Trump supporters about what they thought, and they were basically like, well, I don't like it, but that's just the way it is. Like, that was their consistent response to it. So I don't know if that also would have, played a part. It's just like, well, they don't like it, so.
Without looking at statistics or polls, my guess would be, I do believe that there are some people out there that are fine with the way that he is enforcing his ideas to stop immigration. But I would venture to guess that in a general sense that his own base didn't support this. Yeah. And that's why the change happened so quickly. Because Donald Trump doesn't care what the opposition thinks. He only cares about his base, like his hardcore supporters.
Well, see, you can look at it from that perspective too. I guess what I thought, this is just what was in my head, and this might be my own biases.
No, throw it out there.
But it's like, and because your way is just as plausible, or maybe even more so, I don't know. But just thought that there were a bunch of essentially apathetic civilians that just don't care about things or say anything about them until they're really bad, and then they start coming out of everywhere, until things get to a certain point, and then everybody starts speaking up. So, you have a lot of the younger generation, a lot of liberals who just don't ever say anything, You know, you got loudmouths too, but you have other ones that, to me, seem just concerned with living their lives, and they don't really give a crap about this or that when it comes to politics. They're not informed on politics or any of that. I think this is just one of those things that caught enough ears because of the way it sounded.
You don't have to be interested in politics to get behind this situation. You know, this immigration, this policy of separating children from their families. You don't have to be interested in politics to get behind that. You just have to care about the family as a entity that should be held sacred. Right, and it sounds like that still matters to most people, even though family is not what it used to be. It's changed a lot. People still care about that, and they want to honor that regardless of the situation.
It could be both, though. I mean, it could be both or multiple things. I'm sure it was multiple things.
But you feel like this is finally. You feel like there was an awakening of the apathy? That's what I was saying. What you're getting at?
Yeah, like it broke through that. I think it's going to settle back into it.
And you think it's going to go back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think we're going to go right back into kind of a passive state about everything. So
you don't think that there's going to be like a momentum that carries on from this?
No. That's my bet. That's my bet right now that I'm willing to say. Like, I'm willing to say that people are going to forget about the political stuff, and nothing else is going to move much throughout the rest of his term, unless something like this happens again, but we'll just have to wait for that.
Yeah. The question is him signing the executive order, we were speaking optimistically a little bit ago about he signed the order. So are we going to become apathetic now? Like, we got to win out of this, or are we going to follow up on it and make sure that okay, is everyone back with their families? No. Okay, then this is not okay still. There's still a kid in the facility. Like, now he's with some foster parent. Yeah. But he's still not with his family. That's unacceptable. He should be with his family right now.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
But you don't know where his family is because you didn't log that information, or because they're illegal immigrants. Like, maybe they came from Mexico, but they're actually from El Salvador. So did they go back? Did you deport them to Mexico? Did you put them on a flight to El Salvador? What did you do with them? And where's the kid go?
Yeah,
what
it's
if
crazy.
The kid was born in Mexico, but the parents are from El Salvador, but you arrested them and
where are you? Really complex, really quickly. I mean, what's going to happen to the kids that have already been separated? Yeah, it's just will they all return to their families?
Yeah, I think there's probably some answers out there to these questions that you and I don't have. Like, someone could concretely answer that.
Yeah.
But I think for us, it's important that we don't lose we maintain the passion that we have for the subject until we know that there's a resolution that's come to it.
I think it's like that with a bunch of different things, not just this topic though. But this topic is certainly one of the more important ones. But I just think that there's just so many more things.
And it seems achievable because both sides of the political spectrum
can get on board with
hold the family as sacred.
Right, yeah, it's like that common value that we were talking about, the common values that we share.
Yep. That's just finally something we can solve.
Yeah.
Again, the immigration issue is still going to be there. Some people don't want immigrants coming into the United States. Some people are okay with it. And we're going to have to figure out, the in-betweens of that. But we all can get on board with it's not okay to take a toddler from his mother.
Yeah.
And put him somewhere, where I think there was a story where other kids were, young kids that were 6 and 7 were taking care of toddlers because they were all separated from their parents.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And it's just
no bueno.
Can't be that way,
Yeah.
Can't be that way.
Yeah, not good, man. Yeah, it is. It's I don't know. Currently right now I kind of feel optimistic, but maybe that's just because that this happened, but it is just maybe things can't get that bad because people are going to check it. If it gets bad enough, we have our limits, I think is what maybe I learned from this, me personally. It's things might get bad. Well, first of all, things could catch up to us just quicker than we can think past them. global warming or artificial intelligence. There's always issues that we could really get in trouble by not pre-thinking or not being proactive about the issue.
Did this particular issue, do you feel like it struck a chord with you more than some of the other things that have happened?
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it did in one way, in that, again, it reflects the internment camps and, well, I am part Hispanic, and I have people, I've had people, and I have people in my family who have green cards. So, so it's like I have some attachment to it. But I guess for me, it's just like when I hear about net neutrality going away, when I hear about the, Scott Pruitt being head of the EPA and the head of NASA doubting global warming, it's just like families are going to be torn apart, whether it's by a hurricane or by government agents. We'll allow it in the future if we can't see it. So it just seems like really short-sighted to me.
Well, I mean, we had that happen in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, exactly. Which we did nothing about.
Weather patterns are changing. We're not prepared for them.
Yeah.
People are losing their lives, and they were ignored in Puerto Rico. Families were destroyed there because we didn't do anything. We didn't provide care for them.
Wealth inequality continues to grow. Like, there's lots of ways for people for horrible things to happen to humans, and children included. And it's just like, this one was just in our face. That's the only difference, was that this one was in our face. I guess that is where I'm at. That is where I'm at on it. That's why I felt the way that I did about it. It's just like, it's a big deal, but it's in our face and everybody's looking at it. Like,
you're forced to confront this one.
Yeah, and it's just like, the second you're not forced to confront it anymore, you go back to your regular life and you start ignoring it until things get so bad that maybe you can't do anything about the next time something like this happens. You can't do anything. The president can't sign an order that stops a hurricane. That can't happen. So what do you do when the president doesn't have any power, or politicians don't have the power to solve the issues that are coming? It's like, that's why you got to start speaking up about them now.
Yep.
And insisting that things are done about them.
Some of these, I mean, you brought up global warming, climate change, whatever term you want to use. I remember watching stuff about that in school as a little kid, on like a PBS show.
Yeah.
Right? Like Al Gore was talking about it when we were kids.
Yeah.
And there are, that's 20-some years ago.
Yeah, and still nothing's happened.
Well, some things have happened. There are progress. I mean, renewable energy is almost, we're getting close to where solar energy is at parity with fossil fuel energy. They're coming to get us. But yeah, that issue has not been, I mean, it's not, people aren't getting behind it still. In a way that's going to create change. We should have dealt with this at the time.
Yep.
We should be farther along. We've made progress, but we're taking too long to make that progress, is I guess what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to what you were saying, is like, if it's not in your face, I'm going to pass it along to someone else.
Yeah. They
can deal with it because I don't have to right now. And that's what climate change is, right? Is we're just like, well, we're going to be
future.
Fine. Yeah. But our grandkids, they're not going to be fine.
Yeah. Humans are very short-sighted, and this is an issue that, like, it's one of the first things that I learned when I learned to think critically, was that, like, oh, I'm short-sighted. I really can't, I'm not used to thinking about the future too long and such a long distance, so, thinking about the harms of the future really escape you. I think that we're short-sighted, so we can't see that our behavior today affects a lot of what's going on in the future, and we're narrow-sighted, so we can only see the things that we're focusing on one at a time.
Yeah, and did you have more to say?
Nope.
So with the short-sightedness and far-sightedness, we were talking earlier off podcast about how, if your goal is to stop illegal immigration, maybe being cruel and separating families from the border will achieve that purpose.
Yeah.
Right. It's not popular. But if you really want to stop people coming across the border illegally,
that would be
a good way to stop them from having the incentive to do it is like, if you do this, I'm taking your baby from you.
Yeah.
And we don't know when you're going to see your child again.
Yeah.
Let alone speak to them.
That reduces the incentive too.
Yeah, but so the short-sightedness of like that is like, we can solve this problem very quickly by being cruel.
Yeah.
Okay, but the far-sighted idea of that is like, those kids are going to grow up to hate America.
Oh, yeah.
And what does that look like down the road? If you have a generation of kids from South America and Central America that hate the United States.
Yep.
What does that look like? Because those kids, maybe they end up somehow in government.
Yeah.
Right? And now we've got a hostile.
Yeah. People who don't like America.
For all the stuff that we've done to Mexico, like as a neighbor, they're pretty good to us right now. But, I mean, when you start messing with the family, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
So think down the road, if we're trying to be far-sighted human beings, what's that going to look like?
Yeah.
That's, you got to think about that stuff.
I think this is where I'm going to be a little bit candid, and I might
go for it.
I might I might if anybody does happen to listen, it might put some people off, but
it happens. We're talking.
I think I saw a meme a while back, and it just always sticks with me, and it's kind of one of the first things I thought when this happened, which was basically Republicanism. And again, so I'm singing out Republicans now, not to do it too much, but I'll explain myself in a second, is rich people convincing middle-class people to blame poor people. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of this boils down to me for. Because I'm thinking about it, it's just like, I understand the concern. You're concerned about immigrants coming over and taking jobs, right? And that might solve some issue by cracking down on immigration, even though we still have like one of the most strict immigration laws of developed nations. But it's not like we don't have wealth as a nation. It's not like we don't have money. It's just being absorbed by corporations. The vast majority of any wealth that we create is absorbed by corporations. It's just like
the people at the top. Yeah.
We're really going to tell people we don't have anything from them because we're afraid to point the finger at people who are just absorbing wealth and saying like, no, you can't take it all. This is something that Jordan Peterson was talking about that it made me think my contention with him was because he was talking about how we need to stop asking the question of how do we create equality between, say, male and female or anything with males who have all this power and wealth. And the real question we need to ask is, why does anybody want to live like that? Like, why does anybody want to? Because in his head, they're just basically workaholics. They like working so much that they do it, 24 hours a day, and that's how they create their wealth. That's essentially his explanation for it. And his point is, like, if you want what they have, you should just work constantly, right? And so, but my response to that is, if you like working, then you like working. Okay? Don't tell me you need your money. Like, you're already doing what you love, apparently. Which is, if you don't want to work so much, then don't work. But if you love working, you don't get to take that out on other people just because you want to work, Well, I'm working, so, I don't owe anything to anybody else. And it's just like, well, do you like working or not? If you don't, stop it.
Well, there's people that work hard every day, all day, and they don't make a dime.
Exactly, right. And we can have that conversation too. But I guess my overall point was, it's like, if you want to work 24 hours a day, be my guest, but recognize that at some point you've gotten the enjoyment that you want, and now that money needs to actually go to help people.
Yeah, I think on a personal level, this mentality of like just work harder is useful for you as a person. But
absolutely,
systemically, to just say, well, you have to just work harder to get up the ladder is like, it's a little more complicated than that. The system encourages this tier of poor, middle class, and rich folks the middle class is disappearing though.
Yeah.
And they're not, and it's not disappearing because they're moving up. It's disappearing because they're becoming poor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know, it's I guess that's one of those things we're gonna have to see how bad it gets before people start speaking up about it, and maybe it never gets that bad, you know, like maybe things even out or we find a way around it. But it is, as of right now, we should be pissed. And so that's, I guess, the thing. It's just like, okay, you want to talk about immigration, I understand, but I really do think that you're pointing the fingers at the wrong people. That's just what I believe.
Who's pointing?
Basically Republicans. Basically,
Republicans are pointing the finger at the wrong people.
You mean at
the illegal immigrants or something?
Minorities? Yes, rather than pointing the finger at, because they look at their lives. This is apparently, you know, what I got was happening. They looked at their lives and they're like, you know, why don't I have the amount that I want? That's essentially what it all boils down to, right?
Yeah.
Like, why don't I have what I want? Why don't I have the basic necessities of things that I feel like I need to be comfortable? Otherwise, they wouldn't be so passionate, or what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. But very intense, obviously. You know, well, they're obviously intense towards immigrants, you know, so, you know, well, they're taking our jobs, you know.
Jobs you would never want anyway.
Exactly. And it's just like, why don't you work on getting corporations to create more jobs and to pay more to certain jobs?
Just pay more for the jobs that exist.
Yeah. Yeah. That would even be great, right? And it's just like, and the money's there. It's there, you know, and
it's in the CEO's salary.
Yeah, it's in a lot. It's in more than just the CEO's salary. You know, it's in the CEO's salary, and then once that happens, they filter it back into the corporation, and it's just like, I was talking to another friend about, and I know that we've gotten off the topic of immigration and separating families, but to me, this is the root of this issue. It's why this stuff like this.
That's why we're talking about this.
Well, I think it's why it's going to continue to happen. Yeah. It's because we're not addressing the real issue. Mm-hmm. So like, this might ultimately be a Band-Aid, you know, over what is a larger issue. I think the larger issue is that we're creating wealth, and then we take that wealth and we put it back into directly creating more wealth rather than investing it in people, which will eventually create more wealth, but you first have to invest in people, because we don't see people as assets.
I don't think it's
as much as we could
just about wealth. I think it's about culture. People are afraid that their culture is going to be diminished by a different group of people coming into their country.
You really think that plays a role?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the immigration.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought you were
have
talking
an
about
influx
the
of immigrants.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you come from a neighborhood or a town. Yeah. It's that. I mean, immigration is a big issue in Europe too, because those societies are
they're having a lot of trouble.
What's the word? They're more homogeneous.
Yeah.
Cultures, like France, like you can identify what France is about. You can identify what England's about. United States is more of a melting pot because we have a bunch of different cultures, right?
Yeah.
But people still have that like nativist tendency to be like, I like it the way it is, and I don't want anybody coming and changing it.
Yeah, you're right.
And so that fear of their culture shifting to something that they don't understand or feel comfortable in scares people. So I think that is a factor in immigration being such a hot button issue.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, that's obviously something that people are concerned about. But that one's more just so like, I don't know, too bad, or, you know, it's just like people, we have to learn to live together, you know?
Yeah.
Like we have to learn to live with different cultures, and I don't see, it might be different for me. Just, I don't feel like I attach myself to my identities as much as other people. I did see a meme though that said something.
You mean
like,
your background, your ethnicity? Is that what you're referring?
Everything. My ethnicity, my beliefs, my gender, anything. That's not, I've seen some people that say like people who don't invest in their identities can afford not to, you know. But it is like I am still a minority. Like I am still Hispanic, but I don't think of myself on a day-to-day as white or Hispanic, you know?
Yeah.
Like I really just think like what ideas are in my head and what ideas are in other people's heads. And that's more so just what I focus on. And that has allowed me personally to take on all different cultures. Some people might consider that appropriation, but I don't care. It's like I take what I like, and that has come from European culture. It's come from African culture. It's come from Mexican. It's come from Hispanic, and that's the way that I like it. And I don't see what's wrong with being that way. Like, and if you don't want to do that, that's cool, I guess. But I do think that your world would be a lot better and bigger if you would allow it to happen. And if not, then you still got to allow other people to do it. Like you still got to allow, other people to live their own cultures. And
I don't remember the exact quote, but I think Mark Twain has a quote about how traveling like kills hatred, basically. Yeah. I don't remember it. It's something along those lines. But this is the point of the quote. It's just like, well, when you actually come into contact with the other, the thing that you're afraid of, you often find that you're okay with it if you just to interact with it.
Yeah.
And I think people that are afraid that their culture is going to change or shift generally have not actually had a real relationship with someone from a different culture.
Yeah.
That they're afraid of.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, they said that the number one way to combat all that is exposure. So it is being exposed to it. Man, yeah, I just think we have I think we have epidemics of people and these huge issues, and maybe we're just getting over our past, but it's just like when I hear people talk, they're clinging to things for dear life. They're clinging to something. And I guess some things are good to cling to, but other things, it's just like, have you evaluated the other side? I don't know. Something like that. Like, it's just like they haven't even thought about it. Like there's been no exposure. And I think that's the point of what we do and what we're trying to do, is that we're trying to create exposure. So.
I don't know. You have any more
thoughts on this?
Actually, no. I think we've covered it.
Yeah. I think we exhausted the conversation.
All right. Well, you want to call it?
Yeah, let's call it.
All right. We appreciate y'all listening to the Currency of Discourse podcast. If you do find yourself listening to this somehow, some way, we want to hear back from you. Hear what your thoughts are. Because we're just a part of the conversation. We're putting our stuff out there. We think it's important to do that, to participate in bigger ideas and topics like this immigration stuff that's going on. But look forward to hearing from you if you do find yourself listening to us. Have a good night.